Once upon a time, two friends joined forces to bring you the best in horror entertainment. Brian from the north, Tim from the south, each bringing their own unique perspective to the horror community. Movie reviews, Blu-ray releases, beer pairings, games, and more. Welcome to your new home for horror. This is Civil Gore.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome to episode 156 of the Civil Gore podcast. I'm your host, Tim.
And this is Brian, and we are finishing Tim's favorite horror series of all time, Paranormal Activity. And now that he's learned to say it, it's ending, which is sad.
Yeah, well, I'm looking for my can opener, and I'm opening the typical podcasting beer.
Oh, you're going to be jealous of what I'm drinking right now.
Oh, I'm sure it's better than what I just got. Just a normal plain Sam Adams.
I have a freshly purchased pumpkin.
Oh, wow. Good for you.
Yeah, Julie called me last night. She stopped at Costco, and she's like, hey, do you know they have a whole pallet of pumpkin? Do you want some? And I'm like, yeah.
That's a stupid question. You never asked that question.
Yeah. Well, it was more actually, in her defense, it was more like, how many did I want?
Yeah.
And I misunderstood her. I mean, I know they usually come in 4-packs, but since it's Costco, I thought, okay. And it's weird. The Costco out in Riverhead, Long Island, gets like legit good beer. Unlike the regular kind, like they get stuff from the Bronx Brewery and this really good brewery in Brooklyn called Threes, and they get Industrial Arts, which is another good Brooklyn brewery. I mean, but I'm gonna I think especially due to Every Haunt being canceled and like really not many things to do for Halloween. I think this is the year, Tim, we do our epic pumpkin beer trial and review.
Yes.
I think we just need to do that and watch a shitload of horror movies. Look at that. I got our ratings up. And just like do ton of just nothing but drink beer and watch horror movies.
I've got an idea. You live on the air.
Oh,
coming up
I like
with an
when
idea.
We do that.
Yes. I think we should have a bonus pumpkin beer tasting episode.
I agree. Maybe. Oh, you know what? Even better. Maybe that's when we'll do our first ever like fan and listener Zoom thing we were talking about, where we can maybe do that, where everyone can bring their favorite pumpkin beer from wherever their local area is, and then we can discuss them and stuff.
Yes, let's do that.
Okay, good.
We could possibly even do a watch party afterwards if everybody wants to hang out for that long.
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah. Oh, we got to get work on this. Well, I kind of have some ideas that I want to work on to try and make this Halloween like extra special for everybody, trying to add some fun content. I mean, before you know it, do you realize that we're like less than 2 months, actually just over a month really away from our horror challenge already?
I know. Yeah, we got to get cracking on that.
Well, the good thing is when Ken sent us a bunch of suggestions last year, I kind of started a file, so I kind of have it. A lot of it already in a spreadsheet, so we can just like start piecing it together. I think we kind of already tentatively discussed it that we're gonna keep the same like that point system format for this year. Just make it harder. Yeah, we'll just make it harder this year.
Okay, cool. All right, well, let's get into our. This is very, very small for our first chop, but I guess we'll go ahead and make it official. This is our first chop. All right, Brian. So Brian and I have been watching a ton of movies that we're not quite ready to talk about yet. These are screeners that we've been getting from Fantasia Fest, which is going on right now.
Yes.
And there's been some absolutely phenomenal movies coming out of that. And we decided we're going to bump that a week.
Yeah.
Because after the fest is over, and because we're still in the process of maybe getting a few more screeners, and then we could just talk about all of them at one time. But I'm looking forward to that discussion.
Yeah, and there's certain things with embargo dates, so we got to watch that. So we figured it might be just best we're just going to do a big full Fantasia Fest review next week to start up. And especially it'll help because Final Destination, I think we were going to do 1 and 2 to break it up, and then 3, 4, and 5 anyway. So the first episode will be shorter anyway. So it'll be much more I think time friendly to do it next week. So
yeah. All right. So Brian had a couple of things on here. I didn't really have anything for the first chop.
So yeah, I guess my first thing I'll go through is the weird dream I had last night. This was very. I mean, I know this is a phenomenon that I see a lot of people reporting about ever since COVID happened, like these weird dreams. And I saw different reasons behind it. People have been saying, well, it's because your reality is so altered now that your dreams kind of like take the place of what where you normally do stuff, because everyone was literally at home doing the same thing. And so this was, Tim, that we were back at the New Jersey Horror Con, and it's like one of these dreams where it's just like snippets of it happening. And I remember us walking in. We walked out of my car, like remember we parked in that outdoor spot and kind of thing. So what I remember of the dream was us walking out of that, and we're like looking around going, all right, you ready to do this, Tim? And you're like, yeah, let's do it. All right. And we're like, we're back. And we were going in like these like return of conquering heroes, like to this con. And the thing is, and then I realized as I was walking in, I'm like, oh my God, wait a minute. I don't have my mask. And this has happened to me. I can't tell you how many dreams I have where there's a point in the dream where I realized I've forgotten my mask, and I get into a panic. So it happened in this dream, but it's weird because in the dream I realized, I'm like, I would never forget my mask for a con. And I'm like, especially when we have official Civil Gore masks. I'm like, there's no way I'd forget it. And I reached into my pocket and out it came. So it was so that was the start of it. It was really bizarre. Then we walked in, and we got in, and the con was definitely set up differently. It was not in, like, we walked into the showboat, but it was not the showboat. We were walking around, and it was like, we was really early, like we were there early on the Friday night kind of thing, and not many people were set up, and we're walking through, and like things are like, it's very like bland, like it just looks like one of those like little like cons you'd fight at like the VFW, where there's like, but it was in a big space instead. And I remember you and I were walking around, and the first thing we got to was this booth that I've seen before at another con, but not at this one, which is kind of funny. And it was just all old books and comic books. And I remember I was like looking around, and I found something that does not exist in real life, but it was the Friday the 13th Part 8 Jason Takes Manhattan novelization. And I picked it up. I said, Tim, look. And because it was like really cheap, and you just pointed it and hysterically laughed at me. Like, and you wouldn't stop laughing that I picked that up and thought about buying it. So then it was really weird. Then we started walking, and we were walking by, and we saw Leah Thompson sitting at a table as a guest. No one was around her, and she was depressed. And we went, oh, hey, Leah, how you doing? And she just looked at us, goes, oh, hey, guys. And just didn't want to smile, didn't want to react. Oh. So I know. So we kept walking, and then we walked around the corner, and we found, like, tucked in the other corner was Tiffany Shepis, and the same thing. She was like, we're like, hey, Tiffany. She goes, oh, hey, guys, what's up? And like totally down. And I'm like, and we walk past. I'm like, no, Tim, we got to go back. That's not like either of them. Yeah. And then when we turned to go back, we heard this ruckus going on over the side. And
it had to have been Zach Galligan, right?
No, he was not there, thank God. I don't think they've asked him back after I filled out that comment card of from the last convention. No, I'm like, poor Zach Galligan. Anyway, yeah. So we go back, and what it was there was this weird, like, wrestling thing set up. In the middle of this
none of this sounds out of the ordinary. So far,
right, but it was a wrestling thing set up, and there was a whole line of people around it. And I'm like, and it was like these two wrestlers were just wrestling. These two female wrestlers were wrestling at this point.
Oh,
but it was almost like on one of those jumpy bounce house floors. And I'm like, what is this? And you said, oh, I know what this is. And I can't remember what you said, but you said it's something wrestling. You're like, me and Kevin used to go through this all the time. This is awesome. And you totally cut the line, jumped in front, and next thing I know, you were in the pit wrestling with people.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and you were just wrestling, and I'm like, and everyone was cheering for you. I'm like, oh my God, Tim totally cut the line. But then you kept just wrestling, and then I didn't know what to do, so I kind of turned around, and I started to like walk off because I didn't know. I figured I'd wait and come back for you, and then I woke up. How weird was that?
I don't know. I wish I had been in the dream wrestling with the women in the bouncy house.
No, that's the thing. You weren't wrestling with a woman. You wrestled some other random person. Yeah, like that part switched. That was what was weird. It was like whatever you explained. It was like one of these wrestling where people would just take turns, almost like you put a quarter on like a video game. It was like that. There was a line, and when the two people were done, the next two would go in. And you seemed to cut the entire line. And we lost our chance to wrestle each other, Brian. That would have been awesome. I know. Well, I was so I think I was so distraught. The dream was so odd. That I had, I'm like, but I remembered it a lot of it, so I had to tell you what I remembered. But I think the most jarring thing is that, like, you're very, very not excited for me that I found the Friday the 13th Part 8 novelization.
I would have been fighting you over the,
I know,
the chance to buy that in real life.
In reality, that would have been like the thing.
been...
And it had like a glossy cover on it. It was a paperback, but it still was nice and glossy and everything.
Oh,
it was really.
We would have had to have like joint custody of that.
Yeah, I think I would have. We would have split it. We would have put it on loan for each other's like museums or something. But so the next thing is a little bit more normal, but it kind of relates to the con going culture here a little bit. So there's a new podcast I discovered. And I'm like hooked on it. I listened to the latest episode, well, second to latest episode, because then another one came out right after. But then after I listened to that first one, I went back and I'm starting to go through them all because there's not that many. And that's called the Hobbycast, and it's hosted by Jemma Moore, of course, from the movie Host, that is setting the world aflame here because everyone is just loving every bit of it. And so basically what it is she just usually the first season she had a short first season. I think it was maybe like 10-12 episodes, and it started right before or right as quarantine kind of started, I think, because there's a lot of reference to that. So it was probably earlier this year was season 1, and she started with, it was just her, but she'd always have a guest host and then a guest. And like one time, like, you know, Jed, of course, our good buddy Jed Shepard now, who we just interviewed, along with Haley Bishop, he produces the podcast, so he was on a couple of episodes as a co-host. And also Caroline Ward, of course, one of her co-stars from Host, was in that as well. And she was one of the co-hosts a couple episodes. And it's really good. She just picks like different hobbies. I mean, hence the name, right? But she goes over it, but it's really exciting because she has like a guest on that isn't like, I guess, like an expert in the hobby. Mm-hmm. So, and you just learn a lot of stuff. She's got some, you know, she's got this really couple of funny standard questions that she goes in there, and it is got by far the best opening song in podcast history. I'm telling you, I can't even replicate it if I tried. And the guy that wrote it was Amir Chadha Patel, who actually now is her official co-host in season 2, along with Carla McGlynn. So she's got, and now it's like a 3-person podcast for the second season. And like there was one where they did, it was on all tech stuff. So they're talking about how to do art with like an iPad and and like with the iPencil thing. There's one coming up I'm almost up to. It's about escape rooms. There's like one on photography, but it's just really good because it's, you know, she's just so natural at the talking, and I love like their accents. I can't get enough. Yeah. So it's like just hearing her speak is very soothing to the ear. So, but yeah, so definitely everyone needs to check this podcast out. It's called the Hobbycast. You can easily catch up. Like I said, because
I've got it all downloaded. I just haven't had a chance to listen yet, but I've definitely got it subscribed. There was one that Jeff Tucker did from 91 Reasons, that a brief-lived podcast he did that was about, I can't even remember the name of it now, but it was a collector cast, and it was sort of like this one, but instead of hobbies, it was people who collected different things. And it was really fascinating because, like you said, when you hear people that are experts in a certain subject, it's really fascinating to listen to them talk about that subject. So
I mean, I was enthralled in this one. They were talking about makeup, but because what was neat is one of the guests was kind of like a makeup person, and the other one was like does like effect makeup. So it's like she's got a really good like mix of people, you know, and a lot of people that are in the industry with her. But also there was like the first one I ever listened to. This was great. So the first episode of this season, it was the guy who was the captain or the president of like the Quidditch club in London. He was like part of this the Unspeakables, the London Unspeakables, apparently an official Quidditch team. And so this guy was like the president of it. So they had him on there. So that was kind of fun. So of course I told all our buddies in the Fox and the Foxhound Discord about that one. So that was pretty cool. But cool. Yeah, so definitely check that out because it's a great, great fun podcast to listen to.
Nice, yeah.
Of course, as well as ours, you know.
That's right, yeah. But if you're listening to this, you already know that.
Yes.
All right, so let's get to our second half of the paranormal. Yeah,
there goes Tim. He used to say it. Now I don't know what happened.
Now Yeah. Well, it's going to take me about till the end of the episode to be able to say it properly.
That's true. Okay.
Paranormal Activity series. We're covering 4, 5, and 6 tonight. Well, 5 and 6 are technically called different things, but we'll get to that.
And I will say, I think this is the first time we've been so different on our rankings of something.
Really? Interesting.
Yeah. Our rankings are way off from each other, I think.
Oh, that's good, though. That's
I know. It's good.
All right, so Paranormal Activity 4 from 2012, directed by Henry Joost and Ariel Schulman, starring Katie Featherston as Katie, Catherine Newton as Alex, Matt Shively as Ben, Aidan Lovekamp as Wyatt, Brady Allen as Robbie, Stephen Dunham as Doug, R.I.P. Doug. I did not know that he passed away shortly before this film was released.
He did?
And he was and he was one of my favorites.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, he died of a heart attack in September. It's one of the trivia things we'll get to. But
I put that trivia there, and I didn't remember that.
Yeah, and I was really bummed because he was one of my favorite parts of this movie, actually. Alexandra Lee as Holly, Georgica Pettis as Sarah, and Alicia Bowe as Tara. It has been 5 years since the disappearance of Katie and Hunter, and a suburban family witnessed strange events in their neighborhood when a woman and a mysterious child move in. So this is the first true sequel to Paranormal Activity, unless you count the very end of Paranormal Activity 2, which does give a brief glimpse of what happened after the first film. But this is the first true follow-up sequel.
Right.
And this one, Brian, is... I had seen this one back when it came out on DVD, and it was it did not make much of an impression on me. This one is, even though it's a true sequel, it largely involves a family kind of neighbor, the neighbors, not anybody directly related to it. So of course you've got two kids in this movie, one of whom we find out is actually Hunter from the first movie from the second movie that Katie kidnapped at the end of the second movie. That's the big twist in this one, in case you needed a spoiler.
Yeah, and we'll have to get to that because I have a weird glitch with this movie about that whole scenario. But
yeah, and this one, there were things I liked about this one. There were characters I liked in this one. Like I said before, Stephen Dunham as the dad, Doug, I thought was just like the best dad ever. Like he was so dad-like in this movie that I just loved it. I mean, he was like the ultimate dad joke type dad to me. Yeah. And I really liked his performance in this movie. And then Matt Shively as Ben, I think that was the boyfriend's name.
Yeah, he's the buddy, the friend, yeah.
Yeah, I really liked his character too. He was like, he did a good job of portraying the annoying teenager, but in a charming way. You know what I mean? Like, he wasn't like actually annoying. He acted like an annoying teenager, but he was somewhat charming in that. And then, of course, Catherine Newton as Alex did a really good job. So,
yeah, she's really good. And I feel bad. Her series, I guess, on Netflix just got canceled. What was it? The Society or something? The Society just got canceled. Yeah, she was good. I like her, and I thought she was really good in this movie, and I thought she was hilarious in Blockers. She was kind of funny. Is that like you saw that movie, right? The comedy one with John Cena and Leslie Mann.
Yes, it's been a while.
Yeah,
I think I saw it when it first came out.
Yeah, so I thought she's good in that. She plays just a good teenager. You know, no matter what age she is now. I think she's like 20 something, but she still always kind of plays that good teenager role. And I think what I liked about this one is. So there's a like about this one and a dislike about this one, and my dislike may be a little fair because it's kind of the hallmark of the series. So I'll give you that one first. Is that it really doesn't advance. You don't find out enough about the whole mythology that's going on. You find a little bit, but you don't find out enough answers. But at the same time, it's like. Can I fault that when that's always the series? They always give you just a little bit in each movie, which is clever because, I mean, at some level too, because they keep getting you back to watch them again. But it's still kind of at the same time is a little irking. But what I did like a lot about it is that it kind of broadened the universe for the first time, where it's not someone related, like you said, it's in Neighbors. It's not related to that first family. right out in the bat. You mean you find out how it is.
Yeah,
but at the same
yeah.
time, but at the first time you just see it's another family. And I mean, to me, there's a couple of like genuine like creepy moments that are probably not intended to be as creepy as like some of the other, the traditional jump scares in there. And, sure, you have like the creepy kid who just kind of stands there in sequences and where he crawls into bed. And
I didn't really like that whole, like, I don't know, I didn't like the creepy kid thing. I just didn't like it.
Yeah. No, but one scene I found super creepy was when you first encounter, I mean, you kind of assume throughout the movie that the mother that they keep referencing on the other side of the neighbor is Katie.
Yeah.
But when you first see that it's her and she comes out and she's like, "Oh, hey, how you doing?" There's this like weird creepiness. You're like, "Whoa." Like, what the hell? Kind of thing. Like, why is she just now normal here? What's going on? Kind of a thing. And like, to me, that like for some reason when she first encounters her, there's this creep factor because she instantly gets creeped out too, and she doesn't know why. But I think, as an audience, why. You kind of get that feeling she should be creeped out. And I don't know. I thought that was like a really subtle, effective creep out moment that's not your traditional for Paranormal Activity. Normally it's like something behind the scenes or something literally like a giant jump scare or something like that. And I thought that was a pretty cool thing that always stuck with me for some reason. I always remember, and even to this day watching it, I get that like this weird like creepy chill when I watch that sequence because like she just appears out of there in the house and you're like, oh, she's back, kind of a thing, It seems silly, but I don't know.
And there was actually a very good jump scare in this movie, which actually got me, which was when Alex is using the night vision on the camera and she's like trying to sneak over.
Oh yeah.
To the neighbor's house, and this woman appears out of nowhere and says, "Can I help you?"
Oh yeah, yeah.
It scared the crap out of me. So I'll give them credit for that. That was a good jump scare.
Yeah, no, there's some good ones. I mean, as we get to Ghost Dimension, that's where I think it has where it's almost like jump scare mania. But that, yeah, I mean, that's why this one, it's like, it's a weird one for me. It's like, while I enjoyed it at some level, it's hard for me to quote unquote it a good entry. Although I remember liking it when I watched it because it was finally advancing the narrative, albeit slightly.
Yeah, and I did like the I thought the Xbox Connect usage thing was kind of cool, where it had the so the Xbox Connect sends out all these mapping points in infrared when it would map your movements. And I had a Connect, and I loved my Connect, and everybody hated it, but I actually liked it. I thought it was cool technology.
And you could replicate what they did in the movie I forgot what they said you had to do it. But you can replicate it by way of putting some kind of, it's like something with your camera and
that it's all real. The way that thing mapped, and I thought that was a neat. And ghost hunters use that now. They've got devices that will do like laser points all over the room, so you could see if something trips it or whatever.
And that was a great effect when they had it where you could see like the shape.
Yeah,
being mapped cool in there, and that was a well done, because that was the first time they've done something that, that really really advanced the whole found footage in this series to that kind of thing. Because let's be honest, the first 3 before that were all kind of the same similar jump type of scares,
Yeah.
Or
so
that
was cool,
sneaky things, but yeah.
I mean, I'm trying to find good things to say about this one because overall, I mean, to me, it was one of the weaker entries in the franchise, and you'll see it on a lot of rankings of these movies down towards the bottom as well. So a lot of people kind of felt the same way I did. So that brings us to our trivia. We had, like we mentioned at the top, of course, Stephen Dunham died of a heart attack on September 14th, 2012, shortly before the film was released, which I was just really bummed because he was young.
Yeah.
I just did not have any idea. And I've recognized him from other roles. And I had no idea. So we've already talked about how this was actually a true prequel. But the only other piece of trivia in here was talking about the importance of the laptop, because they incorporate a laptop camera into the series for the first time.
Right. Yeah, because it's mostly and I will say one thing they've done in this series is they always explain the reason for the filming really well, I think. That's always true, find a good... It's not something super silly like, you know, they either, it's a break-in, I'm going to put cameras up, or, you know what, there's something funny going on, I want to get this camera up to see what's really going on here, kind of thing. Like, it's not, and it's, you know, and it's like a lot of found footage movies sometimes, you know, they don't even bother to explain the camera, but some of them do it so poorly, so it's like, this I thought I always had a good balance on why the cameras were there, so.
Yeah, I was going to save this for the end, but I'll go ahead and say it since you mentioned it. I feel like this series, for a found footage series, does everything a found footage series should do. Like, everything it does well. Like, it explains the cameras. There's always a good reason for why things are being recorded. The improv acting and stuff, the performances are generally really good compared to a lot of found footage movies, and with a way of making it feel realistic. So I feel like from a found footage like baseline, I think Paranormal Activity, even the weaker entries, do a pretty darn good job of what they're supposed to do.
So, yeah, so the next one we got is Paranormal Activity, The Marked Ones. That's from 2014. It's directed by Christopher Landon. Of course, people might know his name from the Happy Death Day series. And so there's this one is it's kind of like a side story, but you find out it does connect very strongly to the entire series. But they marketed it as they kind of marketed it as if it wasn't going to, which I thought was really cool, because then it kind of left some of those elements in there as a surprise. But so it stars Andrew Jacobs as Jesse Arista, Jorge Diaz as Hector Estrella, Gabriel Walsh as Marisol Vargas. She's actually been in a lot of stuff. I looked her up after because I was like, she looks familiar, as I saw it this time, and she's been in a ton of stuff lately. Renee Victor as Irma Arista, Naomi Gonzalez as Yvette Arista, David Saucedo as Cesar Arista, Gloria Sandoval as Ana Sanchez, Richard Cabral as Arturo Lopez, and Carlos Prats as Oscar Lopez. So this this synopsis is: when a young man becomes the target of a malevolent entity, he must uncover its true intentions before it takes complete control of him. And so here's the thing I liked about this. This kind of explains a lot of the series in a way you wouldn't expect for a quote unquote side story. It kind of gives you it answers a lot of questions that maybe you didn't know that you had, I thought, by explaining exactly how this demon entity ends up taking over some people, which I thought was interesting, because, you know, it's obviously not part of the main plan of per se as the demon, as you find out a little bit more in the next series, the next one, but it does kind of show you almost like more of almost like if it was a behind the scenes kind of a deal, you know, like you see like exactly from beginning to end of someone actually being taken over by this entity, like more in real time than just like through a series of normal found footage type of things, if that makes sense.
Yeah, the thing I really liked about this one was the setting, because it was told completely from like a Latino perspective, which I thought was really cool for a horror movie, because you don't see a lot of that. Right. Unfortunately, right. I mean, you should see more of it, so I liked the diversity there, and that piece of it I really liked. The thing I wasn't crazy about is when he starts becoming possessed early on and he's got like superpowers and stuff. It just seemed really hokey to me, and I've seen that done before in found footage films where people get superpowers. I just don't care for it. I just thought it was dumb. But I mean, the effects and stuff were cool, don't get me wrong, but yeah, there were parts of this movie I liked, and there were parts that I really just hated, and I don't know. It's hard for me to separate the two, because for every scene that I really liked, there was also a scene that I just didn't care for. So this one was a mixed bag for me. And this one gets pretty decent ratings from a lot of folks.
And I went into this not expecting it to be good and enjoyable, because to me, there's nothing worse to me when I see a movie that gets like when I'm in the middle of a series and they do like, oh, it's a side story kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Now, granted, different like in the Star Wars ones with like Rogue One, because that actually like where that takes place in the narrative, but because all the Star Wars lore also. But like with something like this, you're still trying to figure out the lore, so you don't know what the heck's going on. And when they say, oh yeah, this is kind of a standalone, and I'm like, ugh. Great. I'm like, I just saw 4 and I'm waiting to see what happens, and now we're going in a total another direction. I still not going to know any answers. So I went in not expecting much, and I think that was a blessing in disguise, because that allowed me to just watch the movie for what it is. And that's why it's actually one of my favorites out of the series, because I thought it had a lot of great humor elements to it. I thought the characters were really funny sometimes, but they also were like real. Like these were real like people that this was happening to. Now, not that the other ones weren't, but at the same time, it's like, okay, you always hear about like, okay, little family going into a couple getting haunted, but here's now a family that's already got enough to deal with kind of things going on in their lives. They're obviously not in the safest of areas. Yeah, that's always a worry. I think they lost the mother, right? Because the mother's passed away because the father's working late all the time, and they have the grandmother there, and you just see like you kind of see some of the struggles that are going on, and then this happens, kind of a thing. But yet it's just a fun thing to see. Like, I don't know, I just loved it. This one I think was so character driven that I liked it, and it was a different departure from some of the other ones where it's like it's all about just the scares. But this one I felt like it really tried to give you like a taste of something else, like more of a like what would happen in like an area that's already like struggling, and then now this happens. It's
I
like
that.
Like you don't feel like at some level it's like you're almost like you see this like all the other houses are in there's these big huge lavish houses, and you're like, oh, poor guy. So they're like they're getting a little haunted, kind of a thing,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But like this I like really felt for these characters, because I'm like, they're struggling to meet ends meet. You can tell in one of the scenes, I guess, because the dad's like, what is he working till like 4 a.m?
Yeah.
But they seem like they have a good family, good friends and everything. But the problem is like, they also live in an area, it seems like, where there's some dangerous and unsavory characters going around. So, and I think that character, the one where that the murder happens in the beginning, and they think it's like a legit murder, kind of a thing, which sadly seems like that's a thing that happens often in their little area. So, like, I think that part was kind of added an extra level of suspense, because when they're looking for that one character, I think, what was it? It was Oscar. Oscar was the one they were looking for, I think, right? Yeah. Oh, that's right. Yeah. So Oscar was the one they were looking for, and it was like when he appeared, you got the initial sense of scare, thinking that he was, oh my God, this murderer is on the loose, but then you realize, no, he's possessed, kind of thing, and it's like it just added like a really cool element to this, I think, that the others didn't have.
Yeah, and I like that. I mean, and it got out of the one house setting really well. I mean, there's
you got a neighborhood.
Locations.
You got a full neighborhood now, and then some. So
I mean, the thing I liked most about this movie was the fresh take on it and the setting. And I'm not saying I disliked the movie by any means, but as you'll see in my rankings, there's kind of a reason why I ranked mine the way I did. But there are a lot of aspects actually of this one that I liked, in terms of the fresh setting. The characters were really, really good, like you said. I felt very sympathetic towards them because of their situation, and I just thought that piece of it, I agree, was very interesting. I just didn't find it very scary. I thought it was more of I don't know, it felt to me more of a action movie or something. I don't know, it just never, I never felt any kind of fear from this one in the same way that I did from some of the other ones. So I guess that's my biggest drawback.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely was. It had a couple of moments, like had a couple of jump scares, but yeah, it was definitely more just an interesting story than more of a scary story.
Right.
But at some level, it was kind of refreshing when you had a series of 4 movies that, while they had little different things, they kind of had the same scares. I mean, while legitimate scares, they were the same, just decorated a little differently. So this was a nice refreshing change to actually put some real life scares mixed in with the Paranormal Activity scares. So I thought that's why I like it. I think it blew me away because I just was not expecting that out of this. So
I guess we should go through the trivia for this one. The first one was pretty funny. So there's a scene where Jorge Diaz, when he does it, his character Hector goes down a set of steps in a laundry basket.
Oh yeah, that was funny.
And so it was pulled down with a wire and behind the scenes, and but it kept getting stuck. So on the last take, the crew member just yanked him down the stairs. So what you see on film is his actual reaction of getting yanked down the stairs in a laundry basket, which I thought was pretty funny.
Yeah,
which it did look pretty real. So. Oh
yeah, no, that sequence was hilarious because like, why are you always getting me hurt? Kind of thing. Like he's like always getting. I mean, the two friends were the best in that. I thought there was just a great camaraderie.
Yeah, it really was.
And here's the thing. Here's the perfect trivia. It's like it's the first film in the franchise not to feature that whole storyline of night number one,
like night
and
number
a date.
2. Like
this, you had I think they might have given some dates and times through the normal course of the video camera showing it possibly, and of course this added the GoPro element to it, which was kind of fun. So you can kind of get like a lot of more jarring views of it. So I mean, well, you'll see in my rankings where this is and why, and my rankings might be a little odd. But I do have like legitimate reasons for them, so we'll get to that shortly.
None of these other trivia's really
they're really
great.
The trivia's for these some of the like as the movie's gone on, the trivia got less interesting.
Yeah, so we'll jump right to the last in the series, which is Paranormal Activity: The Ghost Dimension from 2015, directed by Gregory Plotkin, starring Chris J. Murray as Ryan, Britt Shaw as Emily, Ivy George as Leela, Dan Gill as Mike, Olivia Taylor-Dudley as Skylar, Chloe Singari as Katie, Jessica Tyler Brown as Christy, Don McManus as Kent, Michael Kravick as Father Todd, Hallie Foote as Grandma Lewis, Aiden Lovekamp as Hunter Ray, Kara Pifko as Laura, and Mark Steger as Toby. And the synopsis on this one: using a special camera that can see spirits, a family must protect their daughter from an evil entity with a sinister plan. So the whole gimmick to this one is that they find this old camcorder, which was kind of funny because in real life, Anna found my old camcorder. I had an old.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I had an old Super 8 camcorder in the closet that I've kept, and she found it. And she's like, "Daddy, what is this?" And I said, "Well, take it out. I want you to see it." So she takes it out. And now this thing's not like ancient. It's not like from the 80s or anything. I mean, it's right before they switched from tape to digital. So it's probably the smallest version of a tape camera you could get. So it's not that archaic looking. And even then, when she got it out, she was like, "What in the world is that thing?" I'm like, "That's a camcorder. That's what you used to have to record movies on." She's like, "Why is it so big?" I'm like, "Honey, you ain't seen big."
Yeah, like this movie had a big camcorder.
This thing has the little mini Super 8 tapes. I mean, there was some that held the VHS and the beta tapes. But that was kind of funny. I actually need to get those out and try to figure out how to get that thing working again, because I've got like our wedding tape is on that, and I got all kinds of stuff on there. I think I've even got tapes from me and Kenny's visit to the Abingdon, Virginia, to the haunted Martha Washington Inn are on there.
I was just telling my brother about that story because we've been watching so many horror films that we get into a lot of ghost talk around here over the summer. And so I mentioned that story to him, and he was so freaked out because it was mostly started because I got this ghost app that he read about was bad, and it shouldn't. He shouldn't I should delete it because it was saying things, but yeah. And I think the gimmick with this one too, this movie too, not only was it that camera thing to see, but this was the first one that was in 3D, and they claimed like for the first time you'll see into the ghost dimension kind of thing. Oh my gosh,
yes, this one was a cash grab to me, like for the 3D stuff.
It was, but I will say I like as a for fun element, I kind of dug the whole like where you could see those spirits jump out and stuff, and how it started off really slow and you thought you were just going to see a lot of little like pixely things, and then it became like full on like facial expressions that this thing was making, and it led for like jump scare after jump scare after jump scare to the point of where I'm like, all right, Tim's going to be hating this movie after about 5 minutes with this.
No, the thing is, saw every jump scare coming in this one. Like, it didn't even make me flinch, this movie. Like, I literally saw every scare coming. And I was sitting here just bored watching it. And Anna came up and started watching it with me. I was like, you know what? I'm not even going to turn it off. Like, there's nothing about this that I think is even, like, scary enough to let my 11-year-old watch. So she sat there and watched the whole thing. Like, she loved it. But
well, didn't she have a ghost hunting kit herself?
Oh, Anna is obsessed with ghosts. She absolutely loves ghost hunting. I bought her a EMF detector for Christmas last year, and she's gone ghost hunting on the battleship, and she's gone ghost hunting in our house, and she absolutely loves ghost hunting and Ouija boards and everything else like that. So yeah, she's totally into ghost stuff. That's another reason I'll let her watch.
Yeah, Tim will be starring in Paranormal Activity 6.
Yeah, probably. If she gets her way. So she's like all the more wanting to, like, invite evil spirits into our house. I'm like, no, Anna, like, I don't really believe in that stuff, but let's don't tempt fate.
Yeah, don't tempt it. That's what Julie was saying when I was playing with the app, because like it, like, supposedly it'll say words and stuff, and like it'll pick that up, and if you look at all the reviews, people are saying, oh my goodness, it said my name and I don't have a common name, and I'm like, it's probably somehow recording you. It's probably hearing your voice talk. And and it's probably just picking up stuff. Like, I'm sure there's some weird technical thing in there. It does whatever it does. And I saw one guy goes, well, I'm a real paranormal expert and I use this myself. And I'm like, okay, but it's like, at the same time, it's like, they're like, the fact that they, like, here's the thing, okay, the fact that there's a button at the bottom of this thing that says, if you want 1,250 more words in the dictionary, pay $2.99 and move to Pro. And I'm like, okay, so you're basically telling me that you have programmed words in there. So
yeah, exactly.
So the spirit has to know, supposedly, what is in your little vocabulary list there.
The smart spirit. He's like looked it up on the app store.
Yeah, he's like, okay, well, so this guy doesn't have Pro, so I can't say this to him.
No, better make sure I don't.
Yeah, let me say that. But yeah, so.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's just kind of like, kind of funny, silly thing. But that's how, like, we got into a lot of ghost tales. But yeah, but this one I thought was kind of, I mean, it starts off weird. I always find it odd when they start off, like, and they go and explain it later on. But it still like, for a found footage movie to start off with, like, a weird flashback type of deal. Which you find out later is, they do find these tapes and everything, but, like...
Yeah.
And I tell you, they definitely improved on the house that was there. These houses that these people are getting haunted in, I'm like, they are massive. Like, I'm like, what do these people do for a living? I assume this guy, I tried to figure out, we were all wondering, I assume he's, like, either a video game designer or some computer game guy.
Or he's a YouTuber. Have you seen the YouTubers' houses? Like,
are they that big?
Oh my God, you look at go look up any, like, YouTube family that does, like, constant.
Like the Holdernesses. Do you ever watch them?
Yeah, like that. Like, or any of these people that are like the whole family's involved in doing on their YouTube channel, and they have like 1 million subscribers. Their houses are freaking mansions. I'm telling you, those people make a killing.
Meanwhile, podcasters' houses are
yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's two things. I think number one, you can make a killing off YouTube if you can get that many subscribers, and number two, you got to be rich to be able to spend all your time videoing yourself on vacation and spending that much time editing. Like, you already got to have money to be able to have the time to do that.
Yeah.
So, I'm always watching YouTube because of the kids, and I'm always sitting there going, how the hell do these people have these giant houses on YouTube? But anyway, I digress. Podcasters don't make that kind of money. We have like cardboard box money. We
kind of like hemorrhage that money. More so, but
like if we had to make, oh my God, me and Brian would be out on the streets if we had to earn our living from this podcast. Oh my God,
yeah. I mean, we don't even do a Patreon, but even that, like, basically just covers your expenses usually. But
I wonder. Yeah, I've always wondered about the Patreon, if it was worth doing or not. Even if it just covered the month's cost of the hosting, it would be worth it, I guess.
Yeah, well, I think it's the fun. I mean, the way I look at it is this. While, yes, you're getting, it's pretty much covering hosting fees and adding, maybe getting you new equipment later on. there's extra content, so it kind of gives like, maybe it's like a push to do extra. I mean, we kind of just keep throwing out extra content when we feel like it, but like, if we were like pushed to do it, it's like, that's my only fear about Patreon, because I feel like obligated to do a lot more, and sometimes you and I just don't have the time.
Right.
To
yeah.
do
That's the only
it,
reason we haven't done it so far. Yeah, is because if you're asking people to pay a monthly fee, not required by any means, because the show will always be free, but you have to give them something extra for that donation. So we'd have to come up with something like really good. Like, do you give them an extra off-topic episode, or do you give them like Coaster Radio does, or do you have some kind of mail club? I mean, all that stuff takes a lot of time.
Yeah, like, and I mean, and nothing again, and I'm not knocking the Patreon thing, because it works great. I mean, obviously, I donate to Coaster Radio. I mean, Fox and the Foxhound has their Patreon. Kim and Ket have their Patreon, and they do a great job at adding all these extra perks to it and stuff. But it's like, if you think about it, it's like, they just, I don't know. I guess it's harder for us, I guess, because we're so far away from each other too. Yeah. So it's like there's limits there where we're like, trying to time things in, to where, okay, we're both ready, and you have your, right now too. It's like, you have the kids, you have, Olivia works, you got the move coming up, you just had the other move. So, you have a lot of, so it's like, I think that would be something if we looked at it would have to be well down the road when we're kind of like, okay, nobody's moving anytime soon.
Yeah, everybody's settled.
We have some time.
Kids are back in school, and they're not like learning from home. That kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah,
so, I don't know.
kind of that.
If you guys have any thoughts about Patreon, let us know. Like, good or bad.
I mean, I think it'd be fun to kind of come up with the names of the tiers and all that stuff. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, that would be fun.
I mean, we do have some. We're trying to work on right now. We kind of are setting up. We have the basic infrastructure there, but we're gonna try and we're thinking of doing like a Discord thing where everyone can join up and chat, kind of.
Yeah.
So we have that working on. So
we got stuff. We got top men.
We got stuff coming up, which is good. And sometimes we like to. I think sometimes it's more fun a little bit. I mean, for us at least, to just surprise you with like bonus stuff. Like the interview, like by the time you're listening to now, you probably already heard like the interview we had with Jed Shepard and Haley Bishop. Like, to me, that was like such a fun surprise. We got another one that's probably going to drop right after you hear this one coming up this week, which another great interview, which will
or the week after. I haven't decided yet. So
right, yeah, but it's coming up. So and that was another great interview, and it's like I think the way we go, we're kind of like more like the. What's that one film historian that's all like chill, like that guy? We're like him.
Yeah.
We're like, hey, you know what? Let's do this week.
And we just proved that talking about our podcast is more fun than talking about Paranormal Activity.
I know.
The Ghost
Look,
Dimension.
We moved right on. Yeah. I know. I feel bad we went so off, but all right, yeah. Let's bring it on back to this, but yeah. So I will say some of the things I liked about this were the kind of the, dare I say, over the top effects of it, because the first time you're really starting to see some stuff, instead of just like things moving,
It's just CGI crazy though. I don't like CGI ghosts. I never have. Never will.
Well, this one is just weird too, because like I don't understand why some of the characters there, like the blonde one. I mean, I guess the brother shows up because he needs a place to live. Like I kind of got that.
Yeah.
But then
the weird
like
mustache.
and then that weird like blonde woman is there that's like hanging out, that like of course catches the brother's eye, but like I'm not sure what she's there for other than I mean eye candy. I don't understand like what, or the subplot between him and the brother. I don't get it, like
there's a lot of extraneous characters in this one.
Yeah, and did they ever say why she's in there? I can't remember.
I don't remember, because I had tuned out a long time after. I mean, there's just, this movie was like, I was almost going through the motions by the end of it, because it was just so like mind-numbingly CGI and just uninteresting to me.
Yeah, so. I mean, yeah. The thing is like, I think the characters in this were like, while there was a lot, it was kind of fun. I mean, the ponytail dude kind of was a little creepy, but other than that, I mean, and it's still, I feel like they still left you with just as many answers as. I said just as many questions as they did answers, Like, I mean, there is another one supposedly in the works. I wonder if it's going to be like a total unrelated story. Are they bringing it back to this? I mean, And the thing is, at least it continued with some of the whole like little like time travel-y things that the last ones kind of teased at. But I mean, I will say this: other than that one little error where, which may not be so much of an error as a like a fake out, where that joke he makes in the first one about her mother coming in, and we find out her mother was actually killed in the third one. So, like,
but even if he had said that, like, why would he? I mean, if he said that, knowing her, I'm assuming he knows her mother's dead. Why would he say that? Even
right. Like, I either think that it's just a blatant mistake, or that they never thought that would go past the first one, or like the grandmother or one of the other witches just took the place of a mother, and that's who he thought it was. I mean, granted, they weren't married; they were just dating. So who knows who he actually saw there when he went over there? But yeah. So either way, or like maybe it was just a bad joke because he knew the mother was dead, and he was like, "Don't invite your ghost of your mom over." So whatever it is. Yeah. But what the point I was going to make is most of the time this series does follow its own rules pretty well. That it establishes.
I mean, I'll give it that. Yeah, I'll give it that. I mean, like, as a series goes, in terms of the films tying into each other, I think for a franchise like this, I thought they've done a remarkable job trying to keep the series pretty consistent. And none of these are completely off the rails like most franchises are. By the time they get to the sixth movie, at least one of them has gone into space or done something so completely out there that it just stands out like a sore thumb. I think all these movies have really tried to stay within the lane of the original. So I'll give it that. All right, so let's go through our rankings for these. Now, I'll give you I'm just going to go through my whole ranking, Brian.
Okay.
Because I need to kind of keep it cohesive to explain why I did it the way I did.
Okay.
In my mind, this franchise was two trilogies. It was the original 3, and it was the 3 sequels to the original trilogy. So in my mind, that's how I was ranking them. And I don't know, I don't know how valid that is or not, but in my mind, the first 3 movies felt more cohesive as a whole unit than the 4, 5, and 6 did. So I kind of grouped them that way. So my number 1 movie for the series was Paranormal Activity 3. I liked the scares in this one more than any of the others. I thought it had some of the more creepier moments with the kids, and that's the reason I put that one at my top. And a lot of rankers put this one towards their top as well. A lot of people like part 3. My second one was Paranormal Activity 2 because I liked it better than the first one. I thought it gave more. It was more scares. It's just more stuff. It was more stuff to look at. I thought it was more entertaining. It wasn't as slow paced. So that's why I had the sequel above the original. Now, the original I put at the number 3 spot because even though I don't really like the movie, I recognize its importance and what it brought to the genre. So I have to give it somewhat high ranking. I have to put it in the top 3 because of that, and because it started that original trilogy. Then we get to the sequels. So what is the best of 4, 5, and 6? I think without a doubt that was the marked ones. I thought that was much better. Actually, it was markedly better than either 4 or 5.
Yeah.
I didn't completely love it. Like I said, I had mixed feelings about it, but as far as the actual sequels past the first trilogy, hands down the best by a mile. In the 5th spot was Paranormal Activity 4, because it was decent, had a couple of good scares. And then number 6, the absolute worst of the series, was The Ghost Dimension, because to me, that one was just hot garbage. It was just CGI, it was gimmicky, the story was uninteresting. The characters were uninteresting, and I just did not care for it at all.
Okay. So mine's a little different here. So I ranked this in terms of, it's hard. So I ranked it in terms of, like, I wanted to, you know how I rank things. Like, there's emotion takes play in a lot of these for me. Like, that, I take into consideration when I saw it, how I felt. But I also added it this time. I did a little different thing where I added, because I was watching it through with my brother and his girlfriend and Julie, but Julie had seen them all. But they had not seen these. I think, they might have seen 1 and 2 or something. My brother hadn't seen any of them. My brother's girlfriend, though, she had seen, think the first 2. So, like, we kind of all watched it through the series. So I kind of watched it, like, I tried to kind of keep an open mind and watch it through again and that kind of swayed some of my reaction to some of them in terms of, like, now rewatching it as a full series. And one of the ones I'm surprised at, where I get to my last one, I'm surprised it's so low because I don't remember not liking it. But for some reason, this time around, some things changed. But anyway, so the first one I did pick is the original. And I think it's because of the experience, which I described originally. And you know me, I always have trouble not picking the original movie in a series as the first one unless it's just god-awful. Which I don't think this was. And also, I mean, I really liked it, and I remember, like, being blown away by it at the time. I liked the whole promoing of it. I like the fact that, all right, I'll be honest, I like the fact my name's in the credits. So, it's like, but I just liked everything about the movie, including the movie. So I think that's always going to be like, it's going to be like a soft spot. Now, in terms of the best movie out of the series, that's my number 2, and technically, which I still think this is, if you want to rank in terms of best, I actually go with the marked ones, and that's my number 2 pick. So, and I was actually, there was at one point I was actually considering putting that as number 1, but I just couldn't do it because much as I love that one, the first one just has more of a place kind of, like, emotionally in my heart to not be number 1. Then, of course, I picked, then the next one is 3 for me, which was actually, like you said, out of the ones with the numbers, like Paranormal Activity 1, 2, 3, that's probably the best one out of that. But like I said, I think it's just going to get edged out by the nostalgia I had for the first one. So then this is where I made the mistake. Actually, by accident, I think I was typing too fast. I put 5, then 4, but it's actually 4, then 5 for me.
Actually, 4 and 6. The mark.
Yes, sorry, 4 and 6. I put 5 down, but it's really 5, the Ghost Dimension. I think that's where I screwed it up, is where I had it all messed up a little bit. It's technically, yeah. So 4 is my 4th, and then Ghost Dimension is my 5th. And the surprise to me even, and it was that I ran out of rankings and realized, oh shoot, I hadn't done 2 yet. But the fact that I thought that, and I used to love 2, I don't know what it is, but this time around, it just, I don't know, maybe it's because I watched 1 and 2 so close together this time that they didn't stand out enough from each other. So I thought 2 was kind of like, almost like a letdown this time. And it's weird because I used to always like that one. But now I have it down as 6. But now, granted, I will say this. I watched this series again 3 months later. I would not be surprised if 2 got back higher again.
Yeah. I mean,
So
these things these are always a snapshot. And like we've always said, watching them in such close succession can do weird things with your rankings.
Right, because when I saw this series, I saw it full chronological order. With the proper distance. Like, now I didn't see all of them in the theater. I think I've only saw the first 3 in the theater, and then the mark ones, 4 and 6, I saw as soon as they came out on Blu-ray. Like the day one when I bought it, I watched it, kind of thing. So I saw it as close to it as possible. So it was pretty much the years they came out was when I watched it. So it was like I was never really behind in any way, or I saw any out of order. So, yeah, so definitely seeing them all so close together in like a week's time, maybe that was it, because I don't think I've ever done that yet with this series. So it's the first time I kind of watched it in order. Maybe that's why 2 ended up where it was. Because 2 is not a bad movie by any means. I still like 2. It's just this time around, I think maybe because, like I'm maybe used to more of the advancements that 4 and 6 did. That maybe that's why they're ahead of 2 right now.
So overall, I know people are dying. Did the rewatch of these change my mind about the series at all? And my answer is not really. I found some new appreciation for like the ones I hadn't seen. Obviously, like the marked ones, there were some enjoyable elements of it. Ghost Dimension, not so much, but the marked ones definitely were some enjoyable elements. And there were a couple of scenes I had forgotten about in 4 and particularly in 3 that I had forgotten about that I really enjoyed. And again, I'm not gonna say I hate the series. It's just not my favorite, and it's just something about it's just something about the style of it. Like I don't find it particularly scary, other than the few scenes I've talked about. I think anytime I saw like somebody standing around like demon possessed just came off dumb to me. I don't know. There's something about this whole thing, and I don't know what it is because I can't explain. I watch ghost hunter shows all the time. Like I said, I typically love this stuff, but for some reason the scares in this series just fall flat for me. They don't work, and I don't know if it's because I'm watching them at home and not in the theater or what it is, but none of the scares in the series, aside from a handful that I've talked about, really work. And I think that's the reason I don't like the series. I appreciate the story. I appreciate the performances. I appreciate that they've kept it consistent. There's a lot of technical things about it that I really, really appreciate, but they just don't scare me. I think is what it comes down to. I just don't find it scary at all or particularly entertaining. Most of them are extremely boring for at least 40 minutes. So and that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
We could not sway Tim.
No.
Toby the Demon could do a lot of things, but could not sway Tim.
He could not.
But
Sorry.
that did not stop me, Tim, from coming up with yet another beer pairing for this series.
Oh,
for
great.
You.
Okay.
So maybe that would sway you.
That'll get me out of my doldrums.
Yeah, and this one it's DDH Ghost in the Machine out of Broussard, Louisiana.
Oh, that's a great one.
Yeah, it's 8%, and it basically they doubled the massive amount of hops used in their original Ghost in the Machine recipe, and it resulted in a mind-blowing Citra hop experience.
Oh, that sounds tailor-made for you, Citra hops. Yeah,
I love my Citra hop, so that signed up. So at least we got another beer pairing in there, but
it's good.
And now talk about a difficult question.
Oh, this was an easy one for me.
It's easy, but I have my answer right away, but there's so many others that I'm like, well, that one too, I like that too. Oh, and I like that one too. That too. But I think he wants a definitive answer based on our.
Okay, I've got my definitive answer, and then I'm still gonna talk about others.
Oh yeah, no, same here. Okay. All right. So I guess we should say what it is. So it's our fan topic foo for this week, again by our good buddy David McHugh, the horror mailman on Twitter. He basically said, now this could be a question that could while like we just said, we have a definitive answer for each of these, which is I'm sure what he's looking for. The fun of these things are discussions. So We're going to probably have some fun little tidbits on it. But his question was, and it's kind of like more of a statement question, but he just wrote, best Stephen King movie not named The Shining, ?
Now, I will clarify. I will say this. The Shining is not, by any stretch of the imagination, the best King adaptation because it takes so many liberties with the book, and that's the reason King
I agree.
traditionally hated it. I absolutely love The Shining. In fact, it's my number one. Yeah, it's my number one horror movie of all time, personally. But as far as a Stephen King adaptation, it's actually kind of terrible in terms of being faithful to the novel.
Yeah, in terms of his, yeah.
Yeah, but that's not the question. So what is the best Stephen King movie not named The Shining? To me, this was no-brainer. It's Carrie all day long.
Yeah. I knew you were going to pick that, and you might be surprised on what my pick will be, but you might not be too. But
yeah, Carrie is one of my favorite horror movies of all time. I can watch that movie over and over and over and not get tired of it. I love everything about it. I love the cinematography. I love Sissy Spacek to death. I love all the other performances, and I love the story of it. I mean, everything about that movie is just genius to me. So Carrie, hands down, number one pick.
Yeah, my favorite is when she does the podcast and she talks about she's going to record right now.
No, Mama, I'm trying to make a podcast.
Yeah, if you have not heard that, for all our new listeners, that one, Tim and I still to this day crack each other up by just mentioning that little sketch we did.
It's been a long time since we've done a sketch.
We got to bring back a sketch. That was one of my favorite sketches we did. It was so quickly put together, so last minute, yet for some reason it was just
what you guys didn't hear is the amount of laughter I had to edit out because we were crying, we were laughing so hard recording it.
I just don't know why. Like on paper, it's like doesn't look that funny. So I think we were unprepared. But as we went through that sketch, it just overwhelmed us.
It was just so dumb, and and us both doing female voices on top of it was just it's just ridiculous.
It was good. So I mean, granted, I have Carrie super high on my list, and it's probably I'd say number 2 after my first one. And I think, again, you know me, I mean, I tend to go towards when I see a movie about the timing of it and what it did to me. And so my number 1, I think I have to say, is Salem's Lot. Just because
I figured you'd pick that one.
Yeah, actually. Just because I had told that story many times, how that movie freaked me out. That one scene still to this day scares me. I love that movie. Again, and it's a long movie, but I can watch that over and over again. Still has some of the – still, to me, has one of – I still think the creepiest scene, like, right, in movie history. That when that kid floats up to that window still freaks me out. And so, yeah, I'm going to pick my number 1. But, I mean, when you think about them, they're so good. I mean, Carrie, of course. I mean, I love that. I love Misery. I love
Misery's great. Christine
Pet
is
Cemetery.
Fantastic.
Christine. I mean, technically it's not his adaptation, right? Maximum Overdrive, just a rag. That probably doesn't count. But I mean, we still love that as a fun kind of thing. I mean,
yeah, I mean, it's still his story, so it's like his. I mean,
yeah. I mean, I'd say like one of my just as a side story, one of my biggest disappointments, because I love the book so much, I would say Silver Bullet, because even though it was a fun movie, definitely just it didn't, like, for me, live up to the book as well as it could have. And that was one of his short books, you know.
Now here's a sleeper pick that I almost picked over Carrie. Almost. Nope.
Oh.
Shawshank Redemption.
Oh, that's true. Yeah,
that's not a horror movie.
I think that's the only reason why it can't. It doesn't. We don't think of it.
Yeah, but that's still one of my favorite movies of all time.
Right,
so
yeah.
It was tough. I almost picked that one. And then here's another good one. Stand by Me.
Yep, I knew it. I knew you were going to say that.
I mean,
once you went to Shawshank, I'm like, okay, it's got to be Stand By Me then what he's going for next. Because, I mean.
But, you got Creep Show. I mean, people always talk about how King adaptations are never really that good. You know, you hear that a lot. You know, like Stephen King adaptations aren't that great. But if you go back and look, I think it's more a thing of the quantity of adaptations he's had. You're bound to have a lot of not so great titles, but look at all the ones we just named off.
Yeah,
that are just stellar, that are just fantastic. So you can't go and say that all of his adaptations are garbage. He just has a lot of adaptations out there. So there's going to be a lot of garbage and a lot of, along with the gems. I mean, there's some really good. There's some stuff in here that you haven't thought about, like Apt Pupil is another one.
Oh, yeah.
Dead Zone was fantastic. The Mist remake I thought was really good. Not the remake. It's I keep wanting to say a remake because there was a very, very popular audiobook based off The Mist. And
don't forget Green Mile. I mean, there's a lot.
Oh yeah, Green Mile.
That's a hard question if you're really going to want to answer it. Like, as, like, a true... Like, you know, you can look at it twofold. Are you looking... I mean, he did write... Granted, he didn't write adaptation. He wrote Best Stephen King Movie, not named The Shining. So, technically, we're okay with what we said.
Right, yeah.
So, that's why, like, technically, yes, The Shining then works in that case as Best Stephen King Movie.
That's true, yeah. I mean, and I think some of the more dud Stephen King movies have been based off... are kind of directly related to the quality of the underlying book. Like some of my least favorite adaptations are from some of my least favorite books of his. Like I didn't like Dolores Claiborne. Gerald's Game was a good adaptation for the book. I'll give him that. But like, I don't know. I'm struggling to think of all of them off the top of my head. But like some of them, like. The book was okay, but it wasn't great. So I'm not surprised that the movie was just okay and not great. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
So I don't. I've been. I was actually thinking about this question the other day when I was out walking, and it made me really want to go back and maybe at some point do a Stephen King project where I just go back and watch all of the adaptations. I've always wanted to go back and read a lot of the novels, especially the ones that I haven't read since I was a kid, because you see different things when you read them as an adult, but I just don't have the time for that. But the movies I could do, I could definitely try to go back and watch every Stephen King adaptation and kind of do a fun little project there. But that's down the road a little bit. I got to get past my Blu-ray backlog and past my Hammer horror project as well. So
that's true. Oh, and I forgot Cell. A lot of people like that movie, even though it was kind of
that's another one. To me, that's another one that it's a okay movie based off of an okay book.
Right?
It just wasn't a great book either. So yeah, I don't know. That's a great question though, and it made me think about how many good adaptations there are, because a lot of times you just don't think of all the really good Stephen King adaptations there really are out there.
Right. And I will say too, I know that Salem's Lot was the TV movie, not his best movie based off of that, but he's saying best movie, but so I assume he really wants what we think is our best other than The Shining, so, or maybe our favorite per se. So that's why I picked Salem's Lot, because of the impact it had. So
yeah, so Carrie all day long for me, Salem's Lot for you. That anybody who knows us would probably kind of be able to guess those.
And let me tell you, Carrie is just under Salem's Lot for me. Just under. I mean, and I think, like I said, it got the edge because of the impact it had.
Yeah. So, that's a good question, though.
Yeah.
All right, guys. So we will be back here next week, starting our Final Destination series.
Yes.
I think we're going to do, like you said, number 1 and 2, and then we'll do 3, 4, and 5 for part 2, and that will be the end of our summer SLAYCATION, and we'll be getting into Halloween season.
Yeah.
By that point. So, stay tuned for our September Dismemberments dropping this week on September 1st. So that should be a fun one as well. So with that, we'll see you guys back here next week. See ya.